It was a Friday evening, June 3rd, 1921. I'm Josephine Pryor, and I was the day chief telephone operator for the Mountain States Telephone and Telegraph Company of Pueblo. I was awarded a Vail Medal of Honor for my actions that night, as was Mr. Byron Thady. But I was just doing my job, and so were my girls.
For the few of you who haven't heard of that terrible flood, you can see marks on the buildings here. The water rose so high that night, the damage done shall never be fully measured.
Cloudbursts in the west swelled the mighty Arkansas River all that day.
Dry Creek rose up over its banks near Eden that morning, sweeping two little girls out of the arms of their father and drowning them.
Manitou Springs was flooded from the massive cloudbursts in the mountains.
And Fountain Creek filled past what its banks could hold. All that water from Fountain Creek to the north, and from the Arkansas River to the west, crashing, swirling, and rising, tearing apart nearly everything in its path.
All met in downtown Pueblo and changed our city forever. When the floodwaters hit, our girls on duty began warning everyone they could reach. And when the shrill whistles of the ironworks and the church bells began ringing out warning to everyone who might be in danger, every telephone operator in Pueblo waited not for a call, but came in to work like brave soldiers to a battlefield.
Every one of us girls, on duty or off, rushed to the station amidst the downpour of rain and the thundering crash of lightning, many of us wading through water that was far unseen.
That is how we kidnapped 39 of our 50 girls on the job that night.
Byron Thady, the 20-year-old night wire chief, was the only man in the building.
By 8 o'clock, the floodwater began to rise downtown. Every switchboard was occupied, and every signal seemed to be alive on the boards.
I was detailed to warn the loyal subscribers further down the river, encouraging them to get their families together and get the higher ground as swiftly as they could.
Others of us warned the people in the lowlands to flee for their lives.
It wasn't long until calls for help were shrieked in our ears. Homes were being surrounded by restless and threatening waters.
Mr. Thady came upstairs time and again to whisper words of encouragement to us before he went back down to test the boards.
The night grew darker, and the roaring thunder seemed to shake the very earth. The gates of the storm clouds had lifted, and the torrents poured from the skies.
Over 100 people were on the 4th Street Bridge watching the Arkansas line when a wall of water tore into the town and swept the bridge away, carrying all the support people in it. Every one of those bridge stores are really fucking lost. Back in the telephone office, I was supervising the clock calmly up and down behind us.
We did everything we could to lend a feeling of security to the overstrained nerves of the God-inspired angels at the boards. Then, like a mighty hand of resistance, darkness swept across the boards, and simultaneously every signal went dead. The waters had cut off the connections.
Mr. Thady came staggering up the steps. His clothes were soaked. Sort of a calm fear was upon his face. Miss Pryor, he said quietly, you might as well take the girls up to the 3rd floor, I think. I guess I'll be more comfortable over there.
There was no more work for them to do. The work of warning was done. There was water filling the basement, and there was no more connections. So they had done their duty, and no one will ever know how many lives they saved.
So we went upstairs.
We looked out the windows, and all about us was a sea of turbulent waters. We could see the dark waves rise higher and higher, with floating objects tumbling and plunging.
Houses, barns, and sheds came along. Worst of all, struggling to cattle and horses, all the terrible scenarios ever seen before our eyes.
A lumber yard had gone up in flames somehow. Burning timber broke loose from there and floated down the sea of water, catching fire to countless buildings along the way.
For a while, we had to He was on the first floor, struggling with the inrush of water that was about to flood. He soon came back up, carrying the concrete. It was just a driver's code and trouble records. There were no other records, phone numbers, line connections. There was no such thing as phones back in those days. If those records were lost, the reconstruction probably would have been set back for many years.
Before we could persuade the brave Mr. Thady to give up his task, he plunged back down the dark stairway, for all lights were now out.
I later learned that when he came downstairs into the records room, he was looking for the cable records. The waters had broken through the windows, and they slammed the door closed behind him, cutting off his only route of escape. It was only by providence that he found a strong board in the water floating, now up to his neck. And he was able to use it to pry open the door and escape to safety. And during the entire struggle, he never let go of the cable records, and he brought them out of the destroying flood.
The water had now reached a depth of 12 or 14 feet in space and was still rising rapidly.
The entire block of brick buildings across the street in front of our buildings were washed away. One frame house came tearing along, headed directly for our building.
Crashing, tumbling. It came like a mighty tank on a field of battle, and then crash! It hit a garage across the street from us and continued on its path toward our building. The girls, some of them knelt in prayer and others covered their faces, but none of them shrieked aloud. They were all calm and orderly and ready for the end.
Then it happened, all in the twinkling of an eye. The black monster that would have torn a hole through our building toppled and swerved to the north as if shoved by an unseen hand. It rolled past our building and we were saved.
That night was long and terrifying for our weary souls. We played the Victrola up on the 3rd floor and danced to ease our minds. It wasn't until 6 in the morning that rescue boats came to the 2nd story, and we climbed out of the window into the boats. They landed us on a mud bar, which was safe, and we'd hoped that we were able to get off and onto our homes. But the water was still too high, and we were trapped there, standing in the water and mud on this mud bar until 3 in the afternoon with no food or drink.
Although the worst was over in Pueblo, the rain didn't stop in Colorado for 2 more days.
The flood had covered over 300 square miles.
A huge patch of the Santa Fe Railroad had been destroyed.
Over 600 homes had been carried away by the flood.
More than $25 million worth of damage had been done. I'm not certain what that amount of money means today, but I can tell you that in 1921, I could buy 20 ice cones with a single dollar.
Well over 1,000 people were left homeless and had to be fed by the Red Cross.
Over 7,000 telephone wires.
It took fully 3 years for the town of Pueblo to recover, and no one can really tally the damage that was done to the spirit of Pueblo.
What young Mr. Thady did that night, saving those irreplaceable records, may have been the greatest single act toward the quick recovery of the infrastructure of our city. I don't know that I deserved a Medal of Honor for doing my duty that night, but I do consider it a shared honor with these brave operators of Mountain States TNT. Thank you for coming tonight.